Hi guys, today we will see about the important topic that is CSF production, circulation and drainage. Okay, this is in detail. This is very important for your anatomy and physiology aspects of BSc nursing and GNM nursing. Okay, now this topic that is CSF circulation. CSF, it means cerebro spinal fluid. Okay, now in this chapter, this cerebrospinal fluid we call as CSF. Okay, this is CSF. First we will deal about production, from where it is produced, and next is circulation, next is drainage of the CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. Okay, now first we will see about the anatomy of our this. Let us consider this is our these are the hemisphere. Okay, this is our hemisphere. Here is our bones. It is medulla and it is our spinal cord. Okay, this is our spinal cord. Next, now actually this right, okay, this is right left hemisphere. They are and just we will see the thalamus here. Here are the thalamus, thalamus which are present in the hemisphere. Okay, cerebral hemisphere. That is known as thalamus. Now these lateral ventricles of this brain is here. This is a lateral ventricle. Let me draw like this here, more clear. This is a lateral ventricle. Okay, this is our two lateral ventricles. These two lateral ventricles come and come from the around the thalamus, and there is a triangular triangular ventricle that is known as third ventricle, and this third ventricle leads into the, let me draw. Okay, this is, and from here there is a, this is our fourth ventricle, and it is our central canal that is continues up to, that is continue up to L2. Okay, lumbar 2. Next, these are the lateral ventricles, and here these lateral ventricles they have. We will see the how the CF is produced. From it is the anatomical structure of this ventricles of a brain. We will see first. These lateral ventricles are there. This is the thalamus. Okay, thalamus. In both the thalamus there is a triangular shaped ventricle that is known as what it is, third ventricle, and from third ventricle there is lead into the fourth ventricle, that is fourth by the, and the anatomy we will write first names here. This is our lateral ventricle. There is no need to write here. This lateral ventricle, both the lateral ventricle produce the CSF. In the third ventricle here is a foramen. Here is a foramen. This foramen is called foramen of foramen of Monroe. Okay, foramen of Monroe. These foramen lateral ventricle produce the CSF, and drain into the third ventricle by the foramen of Monroe, and it is our third ventricle. From third ventricle, the CSF is drained into the fourth ventricle by these. It is called cerebral aqueduct. Cerebral aqueduct. Okay, that is known as cerebral aqueduct, and it is a pons, and it is our medulla. Okay, these are the component of midbrain, and here these segment we will discuss it later. Now, this is our central canal, and okay, now these things are there. Now, actually, the CSF is produced by the CFS is produced by the some of the choroid plexus which are present here uh, in the lateral ventricles. In the lateral ventricle, like here, these are the choroid plexus which are present on the roof of this third ventricle and each side of the lateral ventricle. Okay, these are the choroid plexus that is present in the lateral ventricle, roof of the third ventricle, and some of the choroid plexus are present in the fourth ventricle as well. Okay, now these what these are the choroid plexus. These choroid plexus is drains the CSF. Okay, that is eventually that CSF is from the blood. Okay, from the arterial blood. Okay, these are arterial blood which is goes to the choroid plexus, and these choroid plexus the whatever the CSF is there, the fluid, the needed that drain into these ventricles, and then there is a release of CSF into the ventricle from this choroid plexus. Okay, I think it is clear. If see this once again, this is choroid plexus. Let me draw. It is a choroid plexus here. This is our choroid plexus. In this choroid plexus, first there is a what? There is a arterial blood which is comes to the choroid plexus, and in this choroid plexus there is a arterial blood, and this blood is filtered and some of the water compound, it means the actual physiology is there. Here is a sodium pump are there, sodium pump activated. Okay, actually sodium is transported here in the ventricles. Actually sodium is transported in the ventricles of the brain. This sodium partially or passively takes the chloride ion. When there is a sodium and chloride ion is present in the ventricle, and it becomes more osmolar, more here in the ventricle, then the water content, whatever the water is there, that is also passively come towards this. There is a increased osmolar pressure. This water is also come here, and that forms the CSF. Okay, and there is a small amount of glucose is also taken up by this blood. Okay, glucose is also taken up by this blood, and some proteins which are also required, that also taken by these pumps. Okay, these are some special pumps. This is the actual physiology of how the CSF is produced from this choroid plexus. Okay, now the CSF is produced from each of these choroid plexus here. Okay, this is the choroid plexus, and these from this choroid plexus, the from the lateral ventricle, the CSF is come through the there is a foramen of Monroe. This foramen of Monroe, the CSF is drained into the third ventricle. Okay, okay, the CSF is drained in the third ventricle, and here also some of the choroid plexus are there that also release the CSF, and from CSF third ventricle, the CSF which is come again down into the fourth ventricle, and these plexus also secrete some of the CSF, and the CSF is built up in more, and most of the CSF is eventually goes go into this foramen. This foramen is known as, yes please, this foramen is known as foramen of Lusk. Foramen of Luska. Foramen of Luska. Okay, foramen of Lushka. This foramen of Lushka, now this is very important. Now it is here. The brain and the spinal cord is covered by a special tissue, that is a layer. That layer is known as meninges. In that, the smallest layer, the innermost layer is a pyometer. Okay, let me draw here. This is a pyometer. I am drawing a pyometer. It is a pyometer. Okay, this is our innermost layer of the brain and the spinal cord. Okay, this is our pyometer, and now, okay, okay, pyometer. Okay, now this is our pyometer, and after that there is a second layer of the brain, that is meninges, and the second layer is, yes please, that is araconide matter, or araconide layer of the meninges, that is a middle layer of the brain and the spinal cord. Okay, this is a middle layer of the brain and the spinal cord. Now let me draw here. Yes please, that is our, I can draw it like this. Yes, now it is completed. This is the, let me tell, it is our durameter, sorry, not durameter, that is araconide layer, and this is our pyometer, and the space between these, that is called subarachnoid space. Subarachnoid space, and this space has a fluid filled cavity, that is CSF. Okay, that is CSF. Now the CSF is produced, this CSF is from this, and some of the CSF is goes to the central canal up to the L2. Okay, next, most of the CSF is drained into this space, and some of the CSF goes down here, and goes and circulate and come here. This, okay, okay, this is the thing. Okay, the CSF is come. Next, the CSF is, okay. Now, next, the CSF which is in the subarachnoid space, that comes here and here, here. Okay. Now this arachnoid space, and the last covering, that is important. That last covering is about, is, let me draw with the, okay, it is blue color. It is an outermost layer of the brain and the spinal cord, that is, it is a toughest layer. Basically the durameter has two layers. Okay, the durameter has two layers. One is, let me write here, durameter has two layer. One is outer layer, second is inner meningeal layer. Meningeal layer. Okay, outer layer and inner meningeal layer. Now this, here let me show you, this outer layer is here, the outer layer, and we divide here from and from the inner layer, and this inner layer is like this. Okay, now there is a formation of triangular structure on the above the brain. Okay, that is about the cerebrum. Now these actually here these arconite matter, this arconite layer of the opening, okay, holes, these holes and this arconite matter layer that forms a finger like projection, finger like projections here, finger like projections. These projections are called uh, villi. Okay, these are the villi, subarachnoid villi. Okay, these subarachnoid villi drains into this structure. This structure is triangular in shape, and actually, what are the CSF which is present here, and that is drained by these villi. Okay, okay. Now, how much it drain? That is depend upon the production rate of production. How much is the rate of production, that much is the rate of drainage. Okay, here this is called as superior sagittal venous. Okay, or superior sagittal venous. Okay, this is point is known as superior sagittal venous. It means we will recap here. The thing first is CSF is produced by the choroid plexuses. Okay, from this choroid plexus, the CSF is from the lateral ventricle come into the third ventricle by a foramen of Monro. Okay, next from the foramen of Monro, the third ventricle is there. From third ventricle, the CSF is went to the fourth ventricle by the cerebral aqueduct. Okay, from the cerebral aqueduct, and the sum of the CSF is go down by the central canal, and most of CSF is go down to the central canal. And here these are two foramen, that is called foramen of Lusca, and from this foramen of Lusca, the CSF is drained into the subarachnoid space of this brain and the spinal cord. Next, the CSF, the subarachnoid space or the aragonite layer has some of the projections into the superior sagittal venous, or it is a sinus, superior sagittal sinus. These superior sagittal sinus, the CSF is drained in the sinus, and ultimately that is the drainage of CSF. Okay, I think it is clear how the CSF is produced. It means we will see about the ventricles of the brain and the uh, how the CSF is produced. We have to see that next how the CFS is circulated. CSF is circulated, and how it is drainage. Okay, this is the things we will see in this lecture. Okay, if any doubt is there, let me know in our comment section. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow for more.